day, everyone. This is your teacher, Miss Mars, and in today's video lecture, I am going to discuss to you the remaining lesson. This is actually the last lesson under Unit 4, still the subject language learning materials development. And of course, we are down to Unit 4. We are now talking about developing materials and specific skill. And this day, I will be talking about the listening skill. So without further ado, I know you all are ready, so let's begin. Allow me to share my screen this time for everybody. So here it is. This is materials for developing listening skills. And listening class is actually one of the skills that are kind of neglected in a way that we don't give a lot of activities to our learners in order for us to develop their listening skills. And even learners, it's something that we don't really practice, right? I mean, not a lot of people would love to listen. I believe a lot of people would love to talk, but only very few or only some really would lend their ears and listen. And listening is one of the skills that we can definitely measure in order for us to know your mastery or your proficiency of the language that you are learning. So in our subject, of course, we are referring to the English language, which is our second language, okay? So as Filipinos, English is our second language. It's not a foreign language because in media, in a lot of areas or in a lot of platforms, we use English to communicate. If we are going to look at newspaper, the language used is English. And in television, the language used is also English and the likes. And even in education system, we use English language. So this time, let's try to see what are the materials that you can develop and you can use in order for you to develop the listening skills of your learners. So it doesn't mean we are going to create all the materials. We can adapt and we can utilize it in our classes. So listening, it's a skill, and somehow not everyone has it. When somebody would start talking to you and that person just needs your ears, it's a difficult thing because sometimes we get bored of somebody keep on talking and talking, right? So the thing is, we have to develop the fondness to listen to people that we are talking with. May it be your close friends, your boss, whoever, who would just like to talk to you. Because somehow when that person started talking to you, he or she just wanted probably somebody to listen to and at the same time respond to what he or she is saying. Because it would feel like that person really gives importance to you in a way. And if it is in a very formal situation, when your boss, when your teacher is talking and you are listening, that means you are showing your interest. But then again, as I said, listening is one of the skills that definitely is being neglected. Like it's not given the priority. So as English teachers, you have to make sure we develop all the skills. Not only we focus on speaking, reading, and also writing, but at the same time, we have to make sure we give an ample amount of listening activities to our learners. So according to Field in 1998, the typical textbook provided the following stages in a listening task. So let's say you are a teacher and you are giving a listening task to your learners. According to Field in 1998, this is what is being written in the book, in the textbook. We can follow these stages when we teach listening to our learners. So we have pre-listening, okay? Pre-listening, that means we are going to establish the context and motivate the student. So we don't just talk about anything, right? I mean, anything under the sun, but for that particular session, you have to determine your context. What specific context are you going to discuss or to talk about for the entire session? And then that would also, you for the pre-listening, you have to make sure you motivate, you set the minds of your students and you motivate them. And then we do have the extensive listening. So the extensive listening, this is now the time that students are looking at extensively the material that you are giving them. Okay, it could be like you would be asking something related to the context, no, or related to the material that you as a teacher will be discussing or will be giving them. For example, ang imuhang, for example, yung material mo na gagamitin, it's a song. You will let them listen to that. You will let them listen a song, right? And then, what is the context? What is the song all about? So prior to you letting them hear or listen the song, so probably you would be asking them questions or you would let them listen something that would bring you towards the context. So for example, if kung love story ang theme ng song, so sa extensive listening, you will be giving perhaps mga elements that is related to the theme or to the context. Some situations, okay, that are relevant to the text, or not really to the text, but to the listening material. So questions to establish the situation. Yeah. So after you let them listen, you're going to provide them questions that you can establish. Okay. You will be able to establish a certain situation that this is where you guys are heading. Okay. And then the fourth one would be preset questions or preset tasks. Before you really let them listen, so preset questions or preset tasks, what are the questions that you would probably give them, no? In order for you to, this time, very much about na yung questions mo sa material. Okay, and then we go with intensive listening. So intensive listening, you will, this time your students will be listening, okay? Really the material that you are using, the listening material that you are using, and you're going to, it would be more on deeper na siya, okay? In-depth na yung kailangan talaga nila. They have to listen very carefully this time. And then review of questions or tasks. And then prior to, or after rather, after intensive listening, you're going to give them questions, okay? Because they already listened to it, and then task related to that. And then after, you can do like inferring new vocabulary and examination of functional language. So pwede na you can check vocabulary if there are things that are definitely unfamiliar. And then this time around, you're going now to probably go to the functional side of the language, because after all, aside from the fact that we are teaching them how to listen, you should also establish what specific probably siguro yung topics mo would be vowels. What specific thing, no, in linguistics, in the functional side of language, are you trying to discuss here? Aside from the fact that you are teaching or you are trying to develop their listening skills. So yung vocabulary, the inferring new vocabulary, somehow other stages would put this in top, like probably after for context and motivation. So you would provide them vocabulary and stuff, no? So it is up to you. But this one is according to Field in 1998. But it doesn't mean that this is the only process, or this is the only stages or procedure that we can follow to provide or to develop the listening skills of our learners. I am talking about how if you're going to create a lesson plan, that's probably how the things will be, you know, if you are trying to develop your learners' listening skill. And then intake-rich activities and multidimensional listening skills lessons. So ideally, class, what learners need to listen to is a target language being used in text, okay? So, of course, yung target language mo, it's English, hindi pwede you will let them listen to a Cebuano song unless you are doing some translations, tasks. Pero if it is listening, you have to make sure that the text is really presented in the target language, which are effectively and cognitively engaging in ways which facilitate intake. So probably it's engaging and it would allow the learners to embrace, okay, and or to take whatever it is that they are listening presented in the target language. So marami naman. There are so many materials that we can use. We can use a song, we can use a dialogue or a conversation taken from a movie, but don't make it really the long, listening text. It would be very boring. If it's a very long listening text, students would not appreciate that. Especially the kind of students we have, the Gen Z. If you notice, diba, now videos are even cut really short. If before, it's okay if, we present a kind of a long video, but now what is already common in social media, we have reels, we have shorts, we have TikTok, and those are the type of materials or videos that would only require like a minute or two. Even 2 minutes na reels or TikTok would be already long. Okay, mga seconds lang yun siya or a minute. So the thing is, you have to make sure that you present a listening text or a listening material that definitely use text in a target language that you are letting the students learn. And it should be engaging and it would facilitate the students' intake of the language. And listening activities, and that is according to Tomlinson in 2013, listening activities which have potential for achieving rich intake of language, it could include, we have here, listening the teacher, reading poems, but here, don't read a really long poems. It's not really good, no? Pero kung kamao ka, if you know how to do it in a not boring way, then that's okay. When you put short stories, but it doesn't mean that you don't put feelings into reading the short stories or an excerpts coming from novels and etc. Pwede rin yan. But an activity which could be used for 5 minutes at the beginning of every lesson. See, 5 minutes, that is really short. So don't give like at the beginning of the lesson, you are reading and it took you like 30 minutes. It's very boring. So these are some of the listening activities that are potential to allow the learners to intake the language. Para bang they are going to take the language as how it is, Then the second, listening to a group of teachers acting a scene from a play. So you can listen. Even radio drama class, just a portion of it. If there is a radio drama presented in English, it's also a very good source of a listening material, no? Because a radio drama, students plainly just listen, obviously, if it's a radio drama. But I don't know if there is, because most of the time, or mostly in the local radio stations, they don't present the drama in English, it's in Cebuano. But if you can find, and there is a very good theme, no, or topic being discussed, so you can do that. Podcast is also a good material or a good source. Now, listening to the teacher telling jokes and anecdotes, it could also be listening to other learners, reading poems, you tell jokes and anecdotes, but only if they have prepared and practiced. If the learners are prepared and they practice for it, then you will let them present and we let the class listen. But if not, we don't waste our time here. So the thing is, jokes are really good, okay? It definitely would provide humor in the class. And listening to other learners reading aloud text, which they have enjoyed studying. So reading aloud text, which they have enjoyed studying, that is good. So these are some of the strategies that we could consider, and there's more. So the sixth is listening to other learners doing a prepared presentation on something which really interests them. Okay, especially if the learners have a choice of presenters to listen to. And then watching sports events, you can also do that. News events, documentaries, which commentaries in the target language. So since it's English, pwede you can crop some video footage or audio file nimo coming from channels like siguro British Broadcasting Company, the BBC, and then CNN perhaps, or from the National Geographic Channel, or whatever, no, mga documentaries. So as long as it's presented in English, listening to presentations, discussions, and even debates on controversial topics relevant to the learners, engaging in discussion with their peers on controversial topics. So somehow, students would really be happy if they are engaging. So we would allow the learners to really be engaged. No, we don't just kind of let them do things and then not engage them into something. So ways of facilitating intakes. How would we facilitate this intake? Through the listening activities that we are going to conduct. So we have ways of helping learners to achieve multidimensional representation of what they listen to, include not using listening text to test understanding of micro features of the text, not concentrating on short, simple listening text at lower level. So perhaps it depends also on the level of our learners. So pag ang atong learners really are already advanced, so dili man pud pwede nga you will let them listen to some greetings lang, diba? So it should be a listening material that would also ignite their interest. So for example, kung mga seryoso kayong estudyante and they are already like adults, mga college students in a way, or even sa ESL, students who definitely have na yung mga students diha klase ESL, beginner or let's say advanced sila, intermediate, pero they are already working individuals. So of course you would not be talking about greetings, you know, an introduction, but it would be some controversial topics, or it would be some topics that really would interest them. Building up listening confidence by using a total physical response approach with beginners. Funny TPR, the total physical response, it would really like allow the learners to be moving, no? Because what we are trying to teach the learners here is the language, but we will be facilitated by movement. Okay, muna bitaw nga total physical response, but this CPR class is very effective if we have beginner learners. Okay, because it would be easier for them to remember, no? Let's say you are teaching kindergarten and now, or grade 1, and then you are trying to teach these young kids some words. So for example, a plane, diba? So how would you provide a particular actions? You'd say, ching, okay, you do like that. That means the plane, because the plane would take off and would fly up high. So you will start to provide them some actions, and then they will repeat. And then later on, you could, let them see a picture, or probably it could even be a realia, and then you would tell them, this is a plane. And then you will let them repeat it. What is this? A plane. And then they will be learning, and they would know what it is because you probably demonstrated the action that is associated to that particular vocabulary. That is total physical response. It's very effective for beginners, but for advanced, of course, I don't think it is effective. So there are really specific approaches that would be effective, or that would be like suitable for a group of learners. Okay, and then building up listening confidence by not testing learners at lower levels in what they have not understood, but giving instead opportunities to make use of what they have understood. So what we are going to focus here is those things that students understand. Because if the students understand something, then they would feel like it is worthwhile. So we will build their listening confidence by not testing learners at lower levels on what they have not understood, but instead we will give them opportunities para magamit nila unsay ilang nasabtan sa katong lower nga levels. The fifth one, getting learners to analyze what they do when listening experientially in the L1, and then encouraging them to try listening in the same ways when experiential listening is appropriate in the L2. So the L1 here, the native language, our L1 is Cebuano, Visayan, our L2 is English. And then including extensive listening of potentially engaging texts, okay, from the earliest levels, and resisting the urge to set questions to check comprehension. So we are going to include extensive listening of potentially engaging text, diba? kanang mga potentially engaging text, yeah, mga lower levels lang sa, and then we are going to let them urge to set questions and check their comprehension. Okay? Ang mga intensive na listening, that is already like higher level. Okay? Ang extensive, because of course, no, you are just more taphaw pa lang ba? Okay? Kung sa Bisaya pa, you are trying to talk about or let them listen a specific material, pero dili pa kayo siya inanakon. And of course, related pud siya sa imuhang context. Okay? But arena sa intensive listening, in the intensive listening, students really are engaged and students really are listening with concentration because it's intensive. So you have to make sure that you're really putting your all ears, okay? And then probably questions are more difficult compared to when you're conducting the extensive skill. But then again, I am trying to say even earlier, you have to be within the context. Okay? So pwede na ikaw mag-dictate or pwede na ikaw, you will be the one to, but you could also make use of listening materials as long as it is not too complicated. It's engaging, but it's earliest level pa lang. And then it's not intensive. It would not require the students to really maglabad ba ang ulog or something like that. Okay, then facilitating experiential listening by providing Wells to reading tasks, which encourage sensory imaging, the use of inner speech. You know, we have personal connections and affective response. And then we also have your giving instruction on how to listen experientially prior to a listening task. So you have to let them know how to listen, okay, prior to a listening task. But murabag, we will give them tips. We will teach them, we will train them how to listen and encouraging the teacher and the learners to tell anecdotes about their own experiences in relation to the topic of a lesson. So, you know what, class, as a teacher, it's always really good to also talk to our learners about our experience, no, related to the topic. So, for example, if the topic is all about the theme of your listening task is all about life, it's all about how you surpass a certain problem in general. You could also share an experience of yours, and then students would, listen to it. Setting homework tasks, which involves learners listening experientially, live or to recordings, to text which appeal to them. And then we have here an example multidimensional listening skills lesson. So lesson 1, the teacher tells the class an anecdote about her first day at school. And in the second, the teacher invites the learners to think about and visualize their own first day at school. Because the teacher is presenting her experience, then this time, the second it's the learner's part. The teacher reads aloud a poem, First Day at School by Robert McGough, and an invited speaker, either a teacher from another class or a guest, tells the class about his or her experience of a particular activity. Example, mountain climbing, appearing on stage, driving a car, and etc. The learners ask the speaker questions about the experience because sometimes they invite. Then the teacher tells the class they are going to visit a country in Africa called Betu. So this is an example. It happened obviously sa Afrikaans, but this is just an example, class, of how you're going to conduct a listening activity to your students. As this will be the first time any of them have visited B2, I don't know where that country or where the place in Africa is, but the teacher is going to play them a recording which gives information about the country. Okay, so I think I would stand corrected, though I am sitting right now. Pwede ra gyud, class, if this class does not happen in Africa, but you can do some virtual visitation. That's what I am referring to. The teacher is going to play them a recording about the place. Okay, so listening could be a good way for us to travel. They should listen to the recording and note down anything which they think is useful or interesting. And they are told that they will all travel to Betu together, but that after the first day, they will split up into smaller groups who will go off to different parts of the country. So they are doing it through listening. And the teacher tells the learners to look at the photographs of different parts of Betu in their course book. And some are of the beaches, some of the mountains, and some of the game parks. Kung atuan ni siyang i-localize, pwede gyud nga we will be looking at a different province in the Philippines. Pwede Baguio, could also go to Palawan. Or kung sa Cebu lang, within Cebu, since we are from the north, you will tell the students, okay, this time we are going to travel south. And then traveling south does not mean we get in the car, we get in the van, and we go. But what we will do is we will let them listen to materials that would allow the learners to think of and see the beauty of the southern part of Cebu. And the teacher plays the recording. So there are so many sources na online that we can check. Each learner decides where they want to go in Betu and what they want to do. So since the south, ito ni siyang ilocalize. Since the southern part of Cebu, there are so many places that students can also go. They can choose which they will visit, okay? And the learners walk around the classroom telling each other their decisions about number 9, why they choose this and that. And the learners form groups who want to go to the same place and to do similar things. So kung kinsa to'y ganahan mo nga to aning tourist attraction or this particular place in the south, then you will be in one group, and then the other will be in another group kung kinsa pa ang laing mga ganahan in sa uban na pod nga mga locations. And then you would start talking about it as a group, listen to each other, the reasons why, and the groups plan their trip to Betu using the headings provided in the course book. So pwede na mo maghimog itinerary with that place, no? Example, clothes to take, okay, other things to take, mga health precautions, other things to do before the trip, things to do in Betu, things to be careful of in Betu, the itinerary in Betu. So it's just something that students can do, and they will be talking about it. And the teacher plays a recording again, and the groups make revisions to their plans in 12, because siguro na mga information nga, this place in Betu is this and that. Kung sa ato apod, this place in the southern part of Cebu, for example, dahil it's pretty much cold. So gusto mo atong Osmeña Peak yan. Nakadungog sa recording, ay bugnaw din na dito. So probably I have to bring a jacket or something that would, keep me warm. So muna i-consider sa mga students na to, planning the clothes that they will bring and their things to take and health precautions and others. So this is just an example of a listening activity. And then the teacher tells the class that for homework, each one of them should imagine their trip to Betu. She warns them that some of the information in the recording is not completely reliable. Okay, just to be safe. No? The teacher reads the poem first day at school again and tells the class where they can find it in their course books and they can read it for homework. And that is an example of lesson 1. So sa lesson 2, the learners sit in their groups from lesson 1 and tell each other about their imagined trip. Okay, so each group decides on a group version of the trip. So kay the grupo man sila according to the specific place that they wanted to visit. So ideally with lots of interesting and anticipated events, and prepares a presentation on their trip. Each group gives a presentation on their trip to the rest of the class, or in a very large class to groups who have been to different places. And the new groups this time are formed, and each group is given the task of writing the script for a more reliable and useful introduction of Betu. The teacher plays a recording on Betu once more so that the groups can spot all its deficiencies. And the groups write their scripts and, if possible, record them. Each group reads or plays its introduction to Betu, and the other groups are told to listen to it carefully so that they can evaluate it afterwards. So, bali, going sa lesson 1, nanami lesson 2, lain na po ang mga groups. And after each presentation, one group is invited to give a constructive criticism of it, and all the groups give it a grade out of 20. So, grado po sila. After all the presentations, the scores are added up and a winner is declared. And each group is asked to go through the activities in lessons 1 and 2 above in their minds and to list all the listening skills they needed to use in these activities. If you are going to take a look at it, so many opportunities for the students to listen to. Of course, they also talk. Diba? Pero naagid sila yung opportunity to listen to, like a video recording. They have to listen. Aside from viewing it, they have to listen. The recordings. The teacher lists listening skills on the board from plenary feedback from the groups on 10 above. And each group is allocated a different listening skill from the list and is asked to prepare a presentation on that skill for the following week, in which they describe the skill, describe the listening skill, give example kung tanos useful, give advice on how to develop and use the skill, and give the other learners a listening task which involves using the skill. So just to remember, no, or some notes, the main point of these lessons is that the learners gain a lot of experience of different types of listening from different input sources. So we do have to have different input sources. And the main role of the course book in these lessons is to provide relevant and stimulating illustrations, anti-recorded input, supporting materials, example, mga headings, print versions of text, a lesson plan, and advice in the teacher's book. So yeah, before we head there, I would just like to add also, because last time we had an activity and I let you give some different tools, no, on how to develop different skills like speaking, reading, writing, vocabulary, and grammar. And this time listening. So it's a listening class. If it is offline, we can use really of audio files in order for us to develop the listening skills of our students. We can make use of audio file. The audio file is a good material source that we can use. No, we can also use videos, because video students would also listen. And dictation, it's an activity, but the material that we can use is, it depends on what you dictated. So kumbaga, if you are reading short stories, not that very long, so short stories and yung material, but the activity there is dictation. So, or you are reading a poem, okay, you want them to listen and then fill in, no, na kay mga dili bitaw nimo isulti nga specific no word, and then students would fill it in after they listen to your reading. So that is also a good way to definitely develop the students listening. And then podcast is also one. So ang podcast, it could be online or offline. Well, anything can also be online, even videos can be online. So there are a lot of actually there are already like some applications that we can use, okay, and we can listen to. So I got this particular article, then we can check, we can take a look. So for example, na I lyrics training, okay, you can give it a try if you are into like letting the students listen to song while they also know the lyrics, okay. So this app has long been a favorite of mine, as it combines listening to songs with learning a language. It's according to the author. There is also listen notes like podcast. In podcasts like Spotify or so many resources on podcasts, you can actually take audios from podcasts and let them listen to it. That we also have read aloud. No? This is a text to speech voice reader that can be plugged in your Google Chrome or Firefox browser. You also have SpeakPipe, video converter, video to audio. Okay, yeah, kung audio lang, of course, you will let the learners probably, of course, listen to the audio file. So many relevant or existing materials, listening materials that we can use. The thing is, how would we use that? Walang siguro na yung pinaka-challenge, but it depends on, of course, that would be answered through the lesson plan that you will create. So of course, you already know your project. I will group you into how many, grammar, listening, speaking, writing, reading, grammar, vocabulary, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. I will group you into 6, and you will create a specific lesson plan for each of the skill. And then on Thursday, I will meet you virtually. I will discuss your lesson planning. So that means that will be one of the things that will be included. So lesson planning, and then you are going to create a lesson plan on the specific skill. A lesson plan, this is the material that you guys will develop. Okay, di man po, it would be also unfair if I will let you develop a course book. Okay, or I will let you, well, so many things pa nga you can develop, but we'll focus first on the lesson plan. And then later on, let's see, probably I hope kung nauntatay dagtaas nga time, but because also of my so many trips, so we'll focus on the lesson planning, because you will also need that for the next academic year when you become student teacher. So anyhow, that's all for listening. materials to develop listening skills. And I hope you learn a thing or two from this lecture. And I will see you on the next video lecture. Okay, so well, it's been a while, class, right? The world has never been easy, but I believe this year is something different. As we are about to enter December, Christmas is just around the corner now. And I believe our Christmas this time is way better than the last or the previous years because now it's so much better, the situation. Everything is, I believe, seemed to me, everything has been the way things were before. Although the problem is that the skyrocketing prices of transportation and the likes, but nevertheless, now in terms of restrictions, we can like freely move around. So that's something that we can thank God for. And I will see you virtually on Thursday. And I hope you learn a thing or two from this video lecture. Thank you very much for watching, class, and for viewing. I will see you on Thursday. Bye.